The British Crown has just overruled the Mayor of London in the most explosive constitutional showdown this nation has seen in a century. King Charles invoked powers nobody knew existed, leaving Sadiq Khan utterly furious and scrambling to save his collapsing political career. Palace insiders are calling it the nuclear option. The fallout is already reshaping our country. But this is not the story the mainstream media is telling you. So the question is, what are they hiding? They will tell you this is a minor dispute over traffic routes. A procedural disagreement. They are lying. This was a calculated attack on the very soul of Britain, and it was stopped dead in its tracks. The confrontation began quietly, at 9:47 a.m. yesterday. A formal letter, delivered by the King's private secretary, arrived at City Hall. The words were measured, but the meaning was unmistakable. London's current leadership, it declared, contradicts the security and well-being of British citizens. Sadiq Khan's response was not diplomatic. It was a declaration of war. At exactly 2:15 p.m., he stood before the cameras, his jaw clenched, and uttered the words that sealed his fate. Nobody, he snarled, tells the democratically elected mayor of London how to run this city. Not unelected advisors, not aristocrats clinging to medieval privileges, and certainly not the monarchy. The arrogance was breathtaking. The insubordination, unforgivable. And the response from the palace was swift and devastating. Sources describe an atmosphere of controlled fury, unlike anything seen in the modern royal household. The king, they say, was privately appalled. This wasn't just about politics. This was about honor. The specific issue that triggered this firestorm involves London's handling of royal ceremonial routes. Khan's administration proposed rerouting the annual Lord Mayor's Show, a tradition since the year 1215, citing modern traffic concerns. But palace historians saw through the lie instantly. It was never about traffic. It was about systematically dismantling the visible symbols of our history, our heritage, and our monarchy in our own capital city. This was the culmination of a pattern. 3 times in the last 8 months, Khan's office blocked or delayed royal permissions. Trooping the color rehearsal routes were restricted. Street closures for a Commonwealth reception were denied. But the final straw was an internal memo, obtained by the Times. It suggested royal processions should be scaled back to reflect modern democratic values. When palace officials read those words, the reaction was cold determination. The king himself reportedly circled that phrase in red ink. In the margin, he wrote just 3 words, "This stops now." And it had to stop. Because this wasn't just a symbolic insult, security officials warned it was a catastrophic breach of protocol. Forcing royal processions down narrower, less secure side streets would create a security nightmare. A gift to any potential attacker. The Metropolitan Police, caught between their duty to the crown and their political master at City Hall, were in an impossible position. One senior officer is said to have privately described the plan as insane and unpoliceable. Khan wasn't just attacking our history, critics argue he was gambling with the safety of the royal family itself, all for a cheap political point. And this is the moral decay at the heart of modern Britain. A 2-tier system of cruelty and contempt. While Sadiq Khan wages his ideological war against British tradition, real Britons suffer. Think of Margaret Winters, a 72-year-old former army nurse from Croydon. She served in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, tending to our wounded soldiers under fire. Today, she can barely climb the stairs in her own home, forced to wait 8 months in excruciating pain for a hip replacement on a decaying NHS. While heroes like Margaret are abandoned, Khan's administration spent £2.3 million on diversity consultants last year alone. Millions on woke reports nobody reads, while the woman who patched up our soldiers is left to rot. Think of Dorothy Henderson, an 81-year-old widow from Barking. She and her late husband ran a corner shop for 40 years. Paying their taxes, serving their community, never asking for a thing. Now, crushed by Khan's council tax hikes, she skips meals to afford her heating bill. She is rationing food while City Hall approves six-figure salaries for deputy mayors with meaningless job titles like Chief Community Engagement Officer. Or take David, a former Royal Marine sergeant from Dagenham. He spent 12 years serving this country, from the deserts of Iraq to the mountains of Afghanistan. He carries the scars, both visible and invisible. He watches the news from his small flat, seeing the traditions he swore an oath to defend being casually dismantled by a man who has never worn a uniform. For him, this isn't politics. It is a profound, personal insult. His taxes, paid from a modest security job, are being used to undermine the very crown he pledged allegiance to. He sees the £400,000 spent on rebranding tube station signs with gender-neutral language and feels a cold, burning rage. That money, he thinks, could have funded mental health support for a dozen veterans on the brink. The cruelty is staggering. The backbone of this city, the working-class Londoners who built it, are being bled dry to fund a bloated, activist bureaucracy that despises them. And then, the king acted. At Wednesday's Privy Council meeting, His Majesty delivered a masterclass in constitutional power. London, the king declared, his voice steady but intense, belongs to all Britons, not to the political agendas of one man. The subtext was nuclear. He wasn't offering advice. He was drawing a line. Insiders reveal the king drafted the rebuke himself, rejecting softer language from his advisors. One senior courtier confirmed it, His Majesty has had enough. The patience has run out. The king didn't just issue a statement. He activated dormant constitutional mechanisms, some dating back to Magna Carta, giving the Crown direct oversight of London's governance. Legal experts are still reeling, but it appears every major policy decision affecting London's historic character must now be reviewed by palace-appointed advisors. Khan's power has been neutered. The king outmaneuvered him using the very traditions Khan sought to destroy. The fallout was immediate. The pound sterling jumped as investors saw a return to stability. Conservative MPs, sensing blood, launched a coordinated assault. Sala Braverman declared, the king has done what Parliament should have done years ago, stood up for ordinary Londoners. But where was the leader of the opposition? Where was Sir Keir Starmer? Silent. Cowering in the shadows. Sources inside his office describe a state of complete paralysis. Starmer, the former director of public prosecutions, knows Khan overplayed his hand. He knows this is constitutionally indefensible. But he is a prisoner in his own party. The hard-left Momentum faction, the activist networks that form his base, see Khan as a hero. To condemn him would be to trigger a civil war within Labour just months from an election. So he chose the coward's path, silence. A silence that screams weakness. A silence that tells the British people everything they need to know about who would really be in charge in a Starmer government. In that vacuum, another voice rose. Nigel Farage spoke for millions when he said this wasn't just about London, but about a political class that despises our country and its history. The people responded. #DefendTheKing trended globally. A YouGov poll showed a staggering 68% of Londoners believe Khan overstepped. Even more damning, 52% of previous Labour voters are now reconsidering their support. This isn't just a crisis for Khan. It's a catastrophe for Labour. Protests erupted outside City Hall, a sea of Union Jacks and signs demanding Khan must go. The images are politically toxic. International reaction was brutal. Commonwealth leaders in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand praised the monarchy's role in ensuring stability. American analysts on CNN and Fox News were bewildered. Why, asked one Georgetown professor, would any politician pick a fight with an institution that has survived for over 1,000 years? Inside the glass fortress of City Hall, sources describe absolute panic. Ministers are openly feuding in the hallways. Khan's deputies are split into warring factions, some urging an apology, others demanding he double down. One senior advisor was overheard saying Khan looked haunted, watching his legacy burn in real time. A junior staffer was reportedly seen weeping in a corridor, saying, "He's destroyed us. He's destroyed everything." But the final, killing blow may have just landed. Leaked documents appear to show Khan's office was explicitly warned by senior civil servants that confronting the crown would trigger these ancient constitutional powers. If true, this wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate, cynical ploy. Insiders claim the leak came from a veteran Mandarin, a public servant of 30 years,